Christopher Spera, and this is the iTechGear Weekly, episode number 116. Bless your heart, and Happy New Year. Recorded live Sunday, January 5th, 2025, live from iTechGear Central. As I said, I am Christopher Spera, the editor-in-chief over here at iTechGear.org. Joining us today, in no particular order, the usual suspects have all returned, and boy, aren't we glad.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The owner, the former co-owner of WUGNET Publications, and of course, editor over here at iTechGear.org, Dr. Mr. Larry McJunkin. How are you, sir?
It's because we had no place else to go tonight, so we thought we'd have a podcast. Hey, in Tennessee, note to self, moving is not for sissies.
No.
It's been 3 weeks now.
Agreed.
We're about half unpacked. Even worse, I haven't got my smart home fully installed. Ladies and gentlemen, my next move is going to be to the oatmeal farm. That's it. Period. End of story.
So you're done. This is it.
I'm
No
done.
more.
Never again.
No more.
No,
Never
no.
again. Okay.
Never.
All righty.
He always says that every time he buys a new MacBook, too. You know,
Yeah, this is true. This is true.
I'm
And of
just
course,
saying.
those
Not
dulcet
buying a new
tones-
MacBook. I'm getting a Mac Mini.
you're getting a Mac Mini. There you go.
And then you'll sell it when the new MacBooks come out.
Yeah,
No,
of course,
no.
the
They already
start,
came
the whole
out, Joel.
start of
They're-
that
they're
particular
already
rant
out.
and rampage. Of course, the dulcet tones from the former contributing editor over at Gear Diary, and of course, the now defunct Pocket Now.
Let's have a
Moment of-
moment.
Half moment. and of course, editor here at iTechGear.org, Mr. Chris Gavula. How are you, sir?
Hanging my head in shame at the title.
Well,
I don't
bless
know.
your heart.
I know. I'm
And
sorry I
Happy
said
New
it.
Year.
I'm sorry I said it to you guys earlier. Dang.
Well, you know.
Right.
Well, welcome back. Here
and
you
and
go.
welcome and Happy New Year to you.
Yes. Bless your heart. So, for
There we
those of
go.
us that know what that means. Anyway, and of course,
Oh,
last
yes.
but never ever least, the former contributing writer over at Gear Diary and currently the host of the Linux Link Tech Show and Living in the Retro Arcade podcast. And of course, editor here at iTechGear.org, Brother Joel McLaughlin. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Actually had a nice snow hike today because it has snowed in central Ohio and it's supposed to snow some more tonight.
Well, there you go.
And would I be wrong to hope that the power and the internet goes out so I don't have to work tomorrow? I'm kidding. I don't want that.
As long as it doesn't happen during the show, I'm good.
Anywho,
Let's get through it, shall we?
mm,
You know, and coming off the holidays as we are, you know, it's nice that iOS 18.2 made it out right before the holidays. Don't you guys think so? I mean, it's a nice little...
I've had a lot of fun with iOS.
yeah, but the
18.2.
camera control, right? I mean, it's the killer feature
Mhm.
that it was really meant to be. Don't you think so, Larry?
Kind of, maybe sorta. I'm a big fan of 9 to 5 Mac. I know some of the guys there, and
Yep.
and even though I agree that 18.2 brought a few, namely 2 or 3 nice features to camera
Mhm.
control, it is not at all what I would call a killer feature. Thank you,
Okay.
9 to 5 Mac.
It's a
On the
nice
iPhone.
feature. But
It's
not a killer
nice.
feature.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's nice. I'm starting to use it a lot
Yeah.
more. I definitely like
Me
it.
too.
But if it went away tomorrow, my life wouldn't go on. It would still go on. But I mean, we're talking 2-stage shutter, auto exposure, autofocus. We have a
Mhm.
lock toggle, a double click action control, which default, and then slow and slower. That's it. That's all they added, but that made it a killer feature. I think if it was a killer feature, it already was a killer feature.
Well-
These 3 things didn't make it so.
I
That's my
agree.
point.
I agree.
I liked it
with you.
before.
I do
I did
think
too.
it might.
I like
it
the
might make-
autofocus when you touch the button, and I also like that you can go ahead and zoom.
change to the zoom. Yeah, I think
Yep,
it's one
you
of
know.
those things. I think I'm with you, Larry, that those particular features aren't enough to call it a killer feature. But
No.
what does make it kind of a killer feature is that I think all of these things make you more likely to use the button, and maybe that does drive us
And maybe
toward
if they
that.
keep adding, you're right. Maybe
Yeah,
so.
I mean,
I
it's
use it
certainly-
now. I like it. I
Yeah,
do.
it makes me. But these things do make it easier for me to make use of it, and you know,
See, like
'Cause,
like the
'cause-
like the feature on your DSLR though, I can
Well,
go ahead and
yeah.
choose the point of focus, lock it in with that button, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I can
Yep.
move the camera a
Well,
little bit to really get
I-
the shot and feature that I want,
I
right?
would also argue that the other thing with that particular button, since it is new to the device and all that kind of thing, is that a lot of us still, we're working on reflex. We tap the middle of our stinking screen, to get that picture taken. It doesn't occur to us to remember that there's this button now. So every time
That's
they add
true.
a
That's
nice new
hard to
feature to this,
remember.
but as they add these features, it makes us more likely. Oh, wait a minute, I want to zoom this first. Oh, wait a minute, I want to do this, and
Right.
it,
And you
it
don't
kind of
have
helps.
to stop
It
and
helps. Yeah, it helps
pinch
break
and
that, but
zoom
it helps to
and
break that muscle memory a little bit. So I
And
kind of
Chris,
like that they're doing it.
you know who it makes it harder for is professional photographers. Just a couple of days
It
ago, I
it
was talking
does.
to a friend of mine who truly is and has been all his life a professional photographer. He's not only a great real estate photographer, he's a pilot. He's done aerial photography. He's really good. And his point about the camera control, he's an iOS guy, but he said there's no way you're ever going to uningrain us old timers.
Oh,
Celebration.
It ain't going
true.
to
oh
happen.
to pinch
Just
and
what you
zoom and
said.
yeah.
It's
Pinch and
muscle
unpinch
memory.
to zoom. Sure.
We've been doing it for what
More
15
than
plus years now. We've been doing it this way,
Yeah.
right.
So
Almost
we're kind
20
of used to
years,
it.
right?
Yeah, we're kind of
Almost
used
20
to it.
years.
The point is, we're more than used to it. So
Now,
yeah,
today's generation who just now is picking up an iPhone, it's a different story. But
True.
True.
but it is interesting, and to me, if anything was going to help us get over the hump, some adding these features does help. It doesn't hurt us. So
yeah,
okay, I'll take it.
it's a great
And,
button, no doubt.
yep,
Yep.
cool.
I agree. It would be nice if they gave you the ability to um see somebody said, and I think it was Krugler that said this, and I'm not going to read the whole quote.
Hmm.
But here he was saying that this should have been billed as Action Button 2 with support for custom actions. You should be able to use it to scroll up and down on web pages, scrub through videos, even assign it to volume control and use the two
I think
existing
that'll
volume
come.
buttons
I
as
really
two
do. I
more
think
action buttons,
Apple will let more things happen with that.
Let you program it ways you want. Yeah.
Yeah, I
There
would
is one.
really
There
love
is
to
one.
see that though on all the buttons, not just the one action button on for the camera, but they have the action button where that was on the 15 in series, right?
Yeah.
I'd love to see a single press, a double press, right? A press and hold, at least,
I
right?
will say there's one thing I will say that I don't like about it being there, because there's two things that they added in the last couple of revisions of the iPhone. One is that that particular kind of, I'll call it action button in general, that control button.
Mhm.
And on the other side, they changed the silence from
The
the
mute
toggle
switch
to
to
the
a
button.
button.
And it's a press and hold button. And I do find myself hitting that accidentally. But what bothers me is they had to displace the existing buttons for everything just slightly, not a lot, but just
Mhm.
slightly. And what it makes now is, for some reason, it now makes my taking a screenshot on the iPhone more awkward. It's just angled enough that it makes it hard to press
Oh.
them together. Whereas on the predecessor models, like the 14 and whatnot, they were
Mhm.
directly across from each other, which is like squeeze the phone and I got a snapshot. It's just a little bit off now, and it's
I get
just
that.
enough to
Speaking of
drive me
that,
crazy.
speaking of screenshots, I have to say this. How can they do this when it's so hard to take a screenshot, but
Yeah,
yet I've started keeping track of how many ones I take inadvertently. It's 3 or 4 or 5 a week, accidentally taking a
yeah.
Oh,
screenshot.
sure.
But yet when I
Yeah.
want to take one, it always turns the phone off instead of
Yeah, yes, I
taking the
never get it
screenshot.
aligned right, and
Never.
I can't get the two buttons to hit together but the more that they disalign these buttons, I think the harder that becomes and messier that becomes to me. And it's a slight difference, but it's enough to mess me up.
Let
Well,
me
So
turn the flashlight button into a screenshot button or something,
let me
anything.
turn the
Yeah.
flashlight button, which is that one button that we're talking, because you can set it as a flashlight. There's a number of
Right.
single actions that you can choose from for this particular button on the
Make it a
15.
screenshot button.
you know what's funny?
I don't want a
have it.
screenshot button. I want to be able to like I said, I want a single press, a double press, and a press and hold.
Interesting. You know,
All right.
I don't
see that, and
understand,
that's
yeah.
what I don't get. What I don't get is why Apple doesn't do things like double taps, like on the back of the phone. Like that's on my Pixel.
They actually do.
9X.
They do. They
They
do.
do.
They do.
I-
Okay,
And that's what I
Oh,
use
yeah.
I've
for
never
my
tried.
screenshot.
See,
is
and
a
that's the
double
thing.
tap on the back.
You
It's
can
an
do
that-
double tap on
accessibility
that points
thing.
out, but that points out one of the big things with the problems I have with a lot of Apple products, be it the Mac, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They have all these stupid gestures. I never remember all of them.
Yeah, no,
You know?
the
You know what's
problem that
funny?
you have though, especially with the double tap on the back, is it always doesn't the sensor doesn't always read
The
it.
sensitivity doesn't pick it up
Right.
sometimes. Yeah, you can
No.
assign double and triple taps to different things on the back. I actually
They
have the
work great if
flashlight.
you don't have a case on.
I
Yeah.
actually use they do, but I actually use the flashlight and camera button toggles on my lock screen.
Yeah,
That's what I use to turn them on and off.
right.
I've always
But
done it that way.
I would love though to have that go to to that action button
And
on the left.
and
Um,
what Joel says about gestures, there's so many gestures, it's complicated. What I find disappointing is Android devices are going to the same freaking mess.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
starting to make exactly the same mess with gestures, and it's like, okay, I got to
Like
do
the
two fingers,
three finger swipe down to get the whole thing.
three fingers,
You know.
but only bring it halfway down the screen, or two fingers up, and I'm like, and what? Give you the
and
middle
then
finger
turn
on a
around and do a
Thursday? Does
dance.
that get
Yes,
does
thank
that
you.
get it to me?
Right.
I don't understand sometimes, but yeah, the gestures just, and then if I'm going from device to device, like most of this team does a lot of this device to device, I have to go, okay, which one am I
Now
on now?
what-
Oh
yes.
crap.
Yes.
Okay, it's this gesture on this device, and then the
I will
different
say,
brands
I
on
don't-
Android all do it differently.
I take way more accidental screenshots on iOS than I do on any Android phone.
I think
Oh,
a lot of
yeah,
people
yeah,
do.
yeah.
I think a lot of people do.
I mean,
Yeah.
if I go back and look at my Apple photos, that's probably the majority of this stuff,
Yeah.
since that's what I use.
I have
That's
to
what I
go
use
through
my
every
phone. I
week
don't
and
take
delete
pictures
the
on my
accidental
phone.
screenshots. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
true.
don't take pictures on my iPhone because it's a work phone. I very rarely
Yeah.
will use the camera on it. So, but boy, do I use a screenshot one, even when I don't want to. It's like, I'm like, I'd love it if they'd improve that. The button, I am mixed on that camera, that camera control thing, and I'm like, I don't know.
It's not bad. I mean, it's a nice
Yeah.
button. It just I
You
just
have
wish
to
they
use
positioned it
it
slightly
to
different.
like it.
You do.
You
Yeah,
really
I think
do.
that's true. I
You
think
do.
that's true.
And I will
Yeah.
tell you that my daughter and her husband got 16 Pro Maxes just a little while ago,
Mhm.
right before the holidays. They upgraded their phones, and she swears by it. She loves that button. She really does. She's been using an iPhone. Well, heck, she was into Pocket PC phones because all the a lot of the stuff that was sent to me either from Taiwan or from China to do reviews on, she got after I went through and did all of the reviews,
Mhm.
So she's got experience not only with iPhone and Android, but also Pocket PC like us, and she swears by that button. She's been using
Yeah.
iPhones just as long as everybody here has. She loves it.
No, it's all it's all a use case thing. We all get used to what we get
Mhm.
used to, I guess. And certain things stick in our heads and other things don't. Well, okay.
Very true.
We'll get there, but it is interesting, and I do think I like the button being there in general. I just wish it was placed slightly differently, and as you guys pointed out earlier, I'd like to see it be more programmable than it currently is.
Well,
I'd like
not
the
just
options to
that
be
one.
more.
I'd like to. I'd
The other
like to
one?
see a button. It would be nice if there was a button utility. All right, that you could reprogram the functions for all the buttons.
Yeah,
All right, it would be nice to see that. But yes, I would also like to see the other button as well.
yeah, gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
So
Huh.
you know what else is also interesting?
What else is
Well-
also interesting?
Well,
What
the
is that?
fact that there is a rumor going around, or at least some speculation that Apple and Google may be breaking up. All
I,
right.
Yeah.
and
doubt that
what
one.
that effect would have on Apple. Now, Chris, you've been looking into this.
None.
But-
That's what it'll have. But anywho,
Well, yeah, it'll be some, but I don't
Right.
think it's going to be nearly as big a thing. I don't know. Yeah, so Apple's concerned, for people that don't know, Google and Apple have had a big partnership pretty much since day one on Apple, where the Google search engine is the search engine by default in Safari and the device in general.
Mhm.
And of course, that's been part of that has come up as part of this whole anti-monopoly thing. It came up even as part of the Apple one, but it's also not it's a bigger one as part of the Google one.
Mhm.
This deal
A
keeps coming
lot of
up.
money there.
There's a lot
Listen,
of money there, and
Google
Apple,
pays Apple
uh-huh,
$1 billion minimum.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But what does that tell you about what they must make on the advertising revenue
Oh,
from
they
this
make
in
them.
order to
They
pay
make.
for?
50
They make
times that.
Yeah,
gazillions as is.
you know they do. And
Yeah.
Google's model is built around advertising revenue. So I don't, this is a fair way to push that. So
Right.
I understand.
Right.
And Apple doesn't want to own a search engine. They've said that over and over. We don't want to make a search engine. We don't want to own a search engine. This is not our wheelhouse.
They just reiterated, the
And
VP said
yes.
no,
And
never happened.
that's kind of what the story that we're quoting today, Larry, kind of talks
Oh,
about
okay.
that. It kind of goes into that reiteration again. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, here we are again. And we said it before you laid down judgment, and now we're saying it again now that judgment's been laid down. And we're all saying this is a bad idea. Don't break it up. And so Apple's pain point, according to this article, would be more around the lines of, well, if we have to roll our own, or we have to buy it from another carrier or another provider, it's not going to be as good. We don't have the resources to drive this the way that Google's currently driving it. What that really means is, come on, we all know Apple has the resources. That's not really what it's about. They don't have the expertise. That's really what they don't have.
Well, they don't, and they don't want to have,
and they
the
don't want it.
expertise.
They don't want to own this. They don't want to be in this business. And they've already said it, because not only do they not have a search engine business of their own, they don't want to be in directed advertisement kind of
Mm-mm.
business.
Not
They
their
don't want
business.
they don't want to be in that business. That's not what
Not
they
their
want to do.
business.
It's much better for them to just
Mhm.
let Google do their thing, pay them for the rights to do it. It's like I'm letting you own a kiosk in my mall. Just
Yes.
get over it.
10
But
That's
years
all
what are
it
from
their
is.
now.
alternatives? What are their alternatives though? Bing,
Right.
DuckDuckGo, Blaze. What else?
They're using the right search engine.
Yahoo.
They are. Yahoo.
Yahoo.
Right?
Thanks, Ecosia. You can do some others.
Yeah. No.
But I'm with you.
You know,
There's
10 years from now, Apple wants to be a services company.
Yes.
Yeah.
They really,
But-
really do.
but not
Yes.
but not search services. That's just
No.
not
No.
the business they want to be
No,
in.
that's not their gig, and they don't want to get there.
So I don't understand, okay, if neither partner wants to do something different and it doesn't seem to be hurting anybody in general,
No.
Why mess
is
with
this
it?
an issue? Yeah, I mean, if it was
Right.
hurting somebody,
Everybody
you could show
knows
me-
you're the man. Everybody knows that the man is the man.
I mean,
right?
the only thing you can say, if you could say anybody was hurt by it, you could say, well, it's hurting Bing, it's hurting DuckDuckGo, it's hurting whatever. Well, okay, I understand that, but really, on the whole, what you have to do with
And
these
most
laws,
of us users are happy
Well-
with it. So
well, what you have to,
leave it
I wish,
alone.
I wish they would stop using AI, and wish they would stop using sponsored links. That's starting to get on my nerves that Google's doing that too much. But
yes,
but
because
beyond
now
that,
the actual search results are below the page.
well, and the
below the
algorithms
fold.
and the
They're below the
algorithms
fold.
are failing more than they used to, and things like that. But the larger picture, though, is the laws were written to protect consumers.
Yes, they
Right.
The consumers are not
they're not in
claiming any
danger
kind
of
of damage
anything.
from this. So, okay, if consumers are okay with this,
See,
I mean,
the way
if
it's
anything-
being interpreted is that it's not the consumers that are at risk
yeah.
here; it's other businesses that
Yeah,
are
I
having
understand
trouble with
that.
the competition. All right,
and I would argue, if you want to put any pressure on Google in this thing and say, I would say, fix your business. Stop the things that are broken here. Stop the things that are poorly
Fix your
running
business,
now.
or if you really
Focus on
have
that.
to, make them invest in, make them give money to, all
Or
right?
make them give money to something. Whatever. I
Give money
get
to
that.
the
So
other- to the
so
other-
yeah, that's basically the story. It's come out again,
and
and
we're
now it's
sticking to it.
and Apple's saying, yeah, we don't really want this to change.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very,
we're
very
happy
true.
with this.
And the consumers don't want it either. So I don't understand. But that's just me. Hey, you
Round
know,
the party we go. Yes.
yes, and
Mhm.
speaking of cameras, right? Apparently,
Mhm.
there's some interesting, and I say that with the bunny ears, right?
Ah,
Interesting
of course.
features that are supposed to be coming to AirPods. Some
the
of
future.
those health features being,
More health
others
features.
like a camera. Joel, what the heck?
Camera.
Yeah, so they're supposed to be adding temperature sensors and a camera to the AirPods, I'm like, how or why? The temperature sensor, that's kind of logical in my opinion.
Well,
'Cause
that
you,
and
you got a device sitting
a
in your
cardiac
ear.
monitoring, sort of like a heartbeat
Mhm.
monitoring, right?
Or please Google, or please Apple, I mean, actually, please both of them. Blood glucose, please. Thank you.
Right,
Anywho,
but
My,
not in the AirPods.
well, my
no.
so according to the story that we're quoting,
And
it
that's
looks
from
like the
Apple
thinking.
Insider.
Yeah, it looks like the thinking is that by putting cameras into the device, it's going to help with spatial audio and placing you in the environment that you're in, understanding where you are and how you fit into the
Right.
environment that you're in. Okay, because why?
I don't know. The audio is going
Maybe
in. It isn't around
refactoring
you.
what
It isn't
they
external. It's an internal.
Well,
right,
we forget, even with spatial audio, we forget stereo is still stereo, folks. All we're doing is
right.
playing games with the positioning of the different sounds within
Well,
that audio
you're
spectrum.
you're playing games with the volume,
Volume.
right? The
Exactly.
volume and how it
And you're using
Right.
AI
know,
to sort of separate different sounds from each other within that audio stream
sure.
and push something
Or
louder,
all
push
right.
something
Well,
quieter.
maybe hear me out. Maybe they're looking at a way to use AirPods to look at your ear and determine if you have an ear infection or something. Not. Maybe that's the case.
Depends on where the
That would
camera
be
is, I
interesting.
guess, right?
Well,
Depends on
yeah,
where the
right.
camera is. I don't want a camera, boring
Pointing in
into
my
the
ear.
inside of my ear. I don't need to see the earwax build up. I
And
know
none
what
of
I
us
got
do.
going.
Right.
And none of us do.
No,
No,
no.
that's gross. But anywho,
Thank you. But
yes.
no.
Oh, there we go.
All right.
So it's an odd idea. I mean, maybe it'll become clearer what they want to do with it, but right now it strikes me as just odd. Okay.
Yeah,
I
I
just
mean,
think it's
I
bizarre.
could see the temperature sensor in the
I can too.
AirPods. That might be more accurate than taking it off of your wrist.
Well, what do they do at the doctor's
Yeah.
office, right? They stick the gun in your ear and they take your temperature, right?
Well, if you do the gun or they have the one that
They go
you
against your forehead now too.
Yeah.
forehead, yeah. You know, one of those two, or old school mercury thermometer.
No,
You
Has
know,
anybody
one,
seen
thank
a
you.
mercury thermometer in recent years?
Only
no,
my
I own an electric
proctologist.
one. Yeah, your proctologist.
Only my
Well,
proctologist. You know.
Yeah, there you go.
But other
That's the
but
one
other,
where you go, hello.
other than, yeah, mhm.
So
Yes.
yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. You know, I like I said, I'm more interested in Apple. You want to sell me an iPhone and an Apple Watch, blood glucose, and I'm
Well,
in.
that's what
I'll
I'm
leave
wanting
Android.
next.
That's
That's
the
what I'm wanting next.
that's the holy
It's a
grail.
hard nut. They're trying to crack
That's
it.
the holy grail. They've been
Yeah, I was
working
gonna
on
say
it
it
for
really is
almost.
kind of that, isn't it? Yeah.
They've been
Almost
working on
a
it for
decade.
10 years. It'll be 10
Yeah.
years that they've been working on
Well,
that.
I guess that goes to show you how hard it is to get that right.
Well, it's
Really?
not only to get it right. All right.
Get it
They
accurate.
want it, they don't
Well, yeah.
want to be FDA regulated. They want to be able to do it not only the right way, but they want to be able to release this feature without having to jump through the FDA regulation.
Uh,
All right.
I don't think they're going to be able to get away with that too much.
That's going to be
I
tough.
don't either. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, I
gonna
just
be a
don't. I don't
tough one
see that
because-
selling real well. But I mean,
Well-
but I do think they'll figure out, how to get it. I think right now the thing isn't even to that. It's more about making it small enough, getting into it. I think they got the technology figured out. It's about getting the package into a small enough space.
You might be right there. They probably
I
do
seem to
have the
recall having read
technology
something about
figured
that
out
a year
after
or so
10
ago.
years. But
know.
yes, I agree. It's going to be a difficult thing to do. All
Yeah,
right.
it's not a very big space to work with. That's true.
No, it's not. And I don't think that they want to make the case any bigger than they've got it on the Ultra series, right?
But the stuff I've read in the last year makes it sound like they've got the how to do the larger concept correctly. They just haven't figured out how to, miniaturize it.
Miniaturize it.
I think they just need to, go into one of those H.G. Wells stories or
Mm-hmm.
or Asimov stories and just,
We need a pin particle. Yes.
yeah, there you go. There's something like
Mhm.
that, and
We
just,
need a pin particle. Right? Anyway, so yeah, there's stuff to do here, but I don't know where the camera health features are on the AirPods or AirPods Pro. Yes,
Nah.
the hearing aid stuff, the temperature stuff, the cardiac or heartbeat related stuff. I can see all that kind of monitoring, right? Would be fairly good in the ears, right? I don't get the camera though, and I don't know how they
Well,
would.
again, like I said, the article says it's to help position you for the purposes of better determining your spatial
Well,
audio.
wouldn't that be
They're
better?
IR cameras, is what it says. They're IR cameras,
IR cameras.
is
Okay.
what it says in the article.
All right.
So, okay, I can
As
kind
long
of
as I'm not
understand
taking
that.
pictures of the earwax buildup in
I
my
don't
ears,
think
I'm
so.
fine. I don't.
I don't think so.
Please no. All right.
Yeah.
So moving on,
Yeah.
interestingly enough, what was the big most aside from Apple Intelligence, what was one of the most
The
controversial?
only new product, brand new category product that Apple released last year.
True,
Yeah, true.
and
That's
one
it.
of the most controversial as well. Really, the Vision Pro, and there's something going around that says that Apple may have halted production on that little bad boy. Larry, I know.
Well, from my own personal, I don't give a crap folder. I bring
Okay,
you news. I bring you news, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
It appears that Apple has possibly halted production on the Vision Pro.
you don't
So on
say.
this show, we have mixed feelings about this little device, and
That is
I'm
true.
probably on the furthest to the left on it. It just doesn't do anything for me, but that doesn't mean it's not a good thing. It
But
simply
you
doesn't
have
work
some
for me.
specific reasons why it doesn't work for you.
Well, yeah, for my vision, I have amblyopia, so I can't ever use one. But that said, in all my trips to the local Apple store, and my credit card will tell you that I go there way too often, I've yet to see person number one at the Vision Pro testing table. It
Yeah.
ain't happening. The store is filled with
Yeah.
people. Oh, nobody at that
And my
table.
store had
Nobody
a
at
few
that
people over
table.
there. My store did have some people there, but I wouldn't say it was a lot of, I wouldn't call it a beehive of activity though.
Well,
Even with
now I'm
that.
in Tennessee, you're in Michigan.
Michigan.
There's a
Yeah.
difference there.
But the point is, I wouldn't call it a beehive of activity either.
No,
So
I don't know. I just I truly said it when we first started this. I still think it'll never it'll be dead someday completely.
Well,
I may be wrong.
well, so Luxshare is the company that assembles the Vision Pro for Apple, and apparently Apple said that Luxshare would need to wind down production of the Vision Pro in November. All right, and they were making about 1,000 of these a day as of October. All right, which was half of what was being produced at its peak. All right. So they'll be able to resume this, right, if sales pick up. Um, and the production lines, at least right now, are not due to be dismantled, but all of that can change depending on
yeah.
how things go, right?
Yep.
And I know the story goes on to say that in general, that there's going to be a lower cost one they're working on. They're not working on a
Right.
newer one of this version and all that kind of thing.
Right.
Again, I think it's still a little bit
It's
wrong
it's
because
overpriced.
again,
It's
but
overpriced. And it
that
doesn't
isn't its
have the
big problem.
killer app.
But I've
It
said
doesn't
before,
have the
it's
killer app.
not the price is to me the secondary issue. The killer app is the primary issue.
I
Without the
agree.
killer
There's
app,
no draw.
Yeah, it's not going to go there. Again, I've said this before. If the killer app was there, even at that price, it would sell because there's competitors running in that price range. We forget that in the VR space, the AR space, the high-end competitors are all in this space. And hardware-wise, Apple is not out of range of this stuff. They're really not. The problem is they have a wider market than these other boxes do. So it looks to them, it looks bad that they're not selling. But well, Meta's selling all these devices. Well, you can't compare the devices. The Meta device is, I'm sorry, the Meta device is the Chevy, compared to your Ferrari. It's not the same. They're totally different in that sense.
Agreed.
It's not.
But that killer app, Chris, has got to be a killer app
It's
that
got
touches
to be a
all
killer.
demographics, not
Yes.
just one
Yes,
demographic.
no, I totally agree with you. Or at least a demographic is big enough that would matter. That would be a start on it. And they have made
Right.
some big
Agreed.
improvements in the software and added some interesting features. I think it's all wonderful, but it's not enough, kids. It's
No.
not enough.
No.
And changing the price and building a cheaper one ain't going to fix that. But what it
No.
might do, and we've talked about this before, what it might do at a cheaper price point is get some developers to pick it up and start
Yes.
playing with it, and maybe then you can get a
Yes,
a
because
killer
at
app
that
out of
point
them.
you're going to get more
It might
adoption.
bridge the canyon a little
Yeah,
bit.
exactly.
Right.
You might be
You're
able
going
to
to
get
get
a
other
killer app
folks,
out of
other
it.
casual users to pick
Mhm.
it up and bring it home. And then those apps that those developers have made may start to sell. All right.
That's my thinking. Is that's
There's a
possible,
lot
but
that's wrong. There's a lot that's wrong here, right?
they're really, but I want to make it clear. We talked about this earlier this week that this thing got named product of the year out of it, and we argued whether it should have been named product of the year and all that kind of thing. And I would argue, yes, as a product, it's a good product. The problem is the infrastructure ain't there to support it, kids. That's what it comes down to. Without
Agreed.
that, it's a great product. The
Agreed.
technology is brilliant. It really is well done.
Bentley
Although
is a good
Joel
car,
rated
but nobody can afford it.
no,
Yeah.
well, but they can because people are buying other sets too. So that's not exactly the true issue. But again, I think it's the killer app that's killing them. Although Joel pointed out he was not a fan of. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joel, if I misspeak what you said to us earlier in the week,
Sure.
that you were not a fan of these technologies that isolate, and all VR headsets do that. And I understand that. I don't really think that it has to do that necessarily. I think that's by choice for people. I don't think it has to be that way.
Agreed.
And they are adding a lot of this, seeing outside of your space kind of things. It helps, but you're right. It doesn't solve that problem. I think what you said earlier, it doesn't really completely solve that problem either.
I mean, the whole idea. That's the whole idea of the screen on the front of the thing, is so that if people see your eyes, they know that you can supposedly know that you can see what's going on around you. The thing is,
you can see the images as well as everybody else.
right? But the thing is do people who aren't wearing it
They
really
don't know that.
know that? That's the thing,
No. Yeah,
and it's very
well,
just it's
to be
it's
fair-
like there was a video Casey Neistat did right after he got his, where he rode around New York on one of his electric skateboards. I'm like, first off, that's dumb. Don't do that.
Mhm.
Not in New York.
Or
anywhere.
yeah.
Not anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna run somebody down.
Well, and I'll
Yeah.
say this, Apple tried to address it. They addressed it badly, but at least they tried to address that by putting the face on the front, which was kind of creepier than not. But the point is, nobody else has even tried to address the issue. At least they
Yeah.
tried to address the issue a little bit, by giving it some
Well,
kind
somebody
of
there was a
acknowledgement.
company that did do that with a very different product, and that's Google Glass, and
But the
they
problem with
had a
Google
camera
Glass
on
is
the
Google,
forehead.
but Google Glass doesn't allow you to. There are times you need to separate from the environment, like you're going to watch a movie or something. But
Mhm.
that's
Right, well,
a
yeah,
crappy
yeah.
example. But the point is, I don't want it projected on the glass while the glass is open and I can, see out.
Right.
That's wrong. And the glass had no way to close off your environment when you do want it closed off. So
Right.
I'm not sure that's the
Mhm.
answer either. I don't think it's a better answer, but I get what you're getting at. But the point is, this was the only thing I've seen that allowed you to have a VR environment and still present to the outside world, for good or bad, whether they did it right or wrong. They tried
Agreed.
something. Okay.
Agreed.
It was kind of a
Right.
loser, but they tried it.
Yeah.
So
Well,
interesting.
we'll see what happens with this.
Yeah. I think Larry's right though. If anything's going to tank, it will be this.
Mhm.
I think, however, they will give it some time. I think they will try to get the cheaper one out and give it a little bit of time.
They can afford to do that.
They can afford to do that.
They can.
Yep.
It may still
Absolutely.
fail. It may still fail at the end of the day. We remember we talk about when they first had the Newton and the Newton failed, and they didn't give it a lot of
Little
time.
piece of garbage.
But they didn't give it a lot of time before it failed. But there wasn't anything like it at the time either. So there was technologies that just weren't mature. But the point
I
is, they
don't
didn't give
want
it
it
any
to
time.
fail. I really
But they didn't give it
don't.
any time, and by the time the Newton came out, they didn't have money to give it any
Little
time.
piece of
They
garbage.
didn't have the resources to give it any time. They now have
Mhm.
resources. They can let this float for a while and see what it
Yep.
does. But
They can.
but they do need to stop the production, which just sounds like they did.
Mhm.
Stop making them. If you're not selling them, stop making them. And then when you are making them again, or when you are selling them again, turn it back
Sure.
up. In the
Sure.
meantime, try to develop it, try to get the software there, try to help somebody find a freaking killer app, kids. That's my 2 cents worth. I think it'll go great if you can get a killer
I'm
app. You'll be
surprised some
fine.
developer hasn't tried to do that themselves.
I
Beyond
don't
me.
know why. It seems like to me maybe they think there's a risk to that. I don't know. Maybe there's a development overhead or burden that is there. I don't know.
I don't know. It's very similar. I mean, you should be able to write most of the code in Swift. All right.
Yeah, yeah,
Which is a fairly robust environment. I mean, it's meant for all iOS, iPad OS,
true.
et cetera development. All
Yeah.
right.
But
Um,
you got to have to interject something else there. Just because you wrote it in Swift, it's not going to transfer it from Swift to what you see. That interface there's what's hard for the
It's going to
developer.
look like an iPad app on the screen is what
well,
it's
that's what
going to look
most of them
like.
look like anyway.
But the point is that won't be a killer app for anybody,
That's not the
right?
killer. That's not the killer implementation. I agree.
You got to come up with something that's unique, and you got to have this just to make it happen, kind of thing.
A reason for me to buy it.
A reason for you to buy it. You know what?
Right. And
I
there
mean,
isn't
I'll
one right
spend the
now.
money.
That's the problem. There isn't one right now.
yet.
There's right now. Right. There
Yeah,
isn't one
I'm
right
with
now.
you.
All
But
right.
that's where Apple needs to spend its money, not on making a cheaper version or making a better second version. Figure out how to get an app that somebody wants, a killer app that people are gonna want this thing. You got to,
Mm-hmm.
and don't get me wrong, the movie theater thing is great. It's probably the best at doing what it's doing. I've done movie theater on Meta devices,
Mm-hmm.
and they're okay. They're not great. They're not awful.
Sure.
I'm
But you can
with you
also
that
do
it's
that with
great.
Google
I understand
Cardboard,
that.
though. You can do
Huh?
that particular thing with Google Cardboard, the whole movie theater thing.
No, but
Stick your
again,
phone inside the
the
Google
experience was
Cardboard.
not as good. The experience on Apple is very, very good, and it's all wonderful. But we need to find a better thing to do.
Yeah.
Well,
I
cardboard's
agree.
not a thing anymore anyway. So
I know,
True.
but my point is those kinds of AR or VR sort of optical things that you can put on your forehead, you can do with a smartphone.
I know. Again, the quality isn't there. Some people don't care. Some people don't care if it's a McDonald's hamburger
Right.
versus a steak. Some people
Right.
do.
I know. I
But
get that.
so the
I get
experience
that.
is better. But the point is that's not enough. That's where I was going with it. It's just still not
I
enough.
get that. I get that.
So
Well, we'll see what happens with this
yeah.
and what may happen in the future. I am going to go ahead though and move us.
You are.
I'm going to move us into our
Yeah.
mobile
Okay.
Linux segment. All right.
I'll do that.
And this one, we've been talking about RTO or return to office
Yes.
for a long time. All right, and those companies that are doing it over the last couple of weeks or so, a big development occurred with AT&T and their return to office mandate. They had been on a 3 days a week plan. All right, where you're in the office Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you're at home Mondays and Fridays. All right. So the end of the week you're already home. The beginning of the week you don't have to, struggle to get out of bed and make it into the office. By Tuesday morning it's the week is already done. You've already, blown the weekend by and everything else. So, that's the way that it's been going for most folks, including AT&T. However, there was a memo that recently went around, and it's effectively saying, okay, kids, the work from home thing has been nice. It's been fun, but that time is now over. We want everybody back in the office 5 days a week.
That we're paying rent on.
Right.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of companies right now that I think are struggling with this. The pandemic actively went from 2020, beginning of 2020 to sometime in 2023. All right, at least mid-year. So 2.5 or so years, maybe a little bit more than 2.5.
Yeah, close to 3.
Officially. Yeah, close to 3 officially. All right, and everybody got during that 2.5 years, the whole work from home thing, quote unquote, saved many businesses. It also killed a lot of businesses.
Mhm.
All right. But for those corporations or those companies that could actually have people work from home, it saved their companies. All right. But now there's a lot of folks like Amazon or Microsoft, Google. this, Apple, that are basically saying, and also now AT&T, that are basically saying, hey, our biggest asset is our people, and what really makes things work and really has it sort of, cooking with gas is the collaboration, and we want everybody back in the office. That's what they're saying on the outside. On the inside, they're saying, shit, we need to get people back in the office because I'm still paying for all the office space.
Yeah.
So
That's
everybody
really what
come
it's
back.
about. Yeah, I mean, that's really what it's about
because
because
yeah,
Well,
Like,
that and cutting costs, right? Cutting
Right.
costs, because basically what AT is kind of saying here is that you've either got to come back to the office 5 days a week or you're out.
hmm
Think about
And-
that. You either need to get your butt back in the office 5 days a week, like it was back in 2019, or you're fired.
And
Right.
the idea here, of course, is I think this article is saying, is
Mhm.
they're saying it because it's really a way they expect a lot of
They
people to
want
quit,
you to
and
come
it's a way
back and
it's a
say,
way of
no,
sort of
I'm
forcing a
gone.
layoff by basically forcing people to want to quit.
Right.
Yep.
It's a
Right.
downsizing. It's a downsizing in
It's a
disguise.
downsizing.
It's a downsizing in disguise is really what a lot of folks are saying here. That the
It could be.
AT&T's return to office mandate is not,
It's not really about returning to the office.
right. It's not really about the collaboration of all their employees. It's not really about saving the lease. It's about cutting costs.
And I
right.
think anybody who's looked at the kind of the statistics on this stuff knows that, remote work did not lead to the large productivity downturn that everybody was anticipating it would.
No,
It
it
actually, in some
actually,
cases, increased productivity. And
did.
returning to office isn't necessarily going to improve things by bringing in collaboration. However, having said that, and I would agree that that's probably true, and the technical arguments people make for not returning to office are probably mostly valid. In some cases, they're not. In some cases, there's some bad benefit to returning to the office. But I think the bigger thing is going to be, look, and we've talked about this before. At the end of the day, you have a contract with your employer. Unless your contract specifically said you were hired to work from home.
And let's clarify the use of the word contract. We're not
I agree.
talking about temporary or contract to hire or sort of contingent workers. We're talking about the employment agreement that everybody signs when they sign their offer letter, all right, with their employer. That contract, because that is, in fact, a contract.
It is a contract.
If that contract, like you were saying, says, you work from anywhere, or if it says you work for, and it will specify, it should specify, all right? And
where you have to be,
Here's the thing, and this is what's really interesting. All of those agreements are written to benefit the company. So there is a clause in each and every one that says this agreement can be modified at any time.
It does. It does say that.
All right.
And again,
that can be modified. That can be modified just by employee policy.
And I mean, I could argue that, look, making people come back to the office is probably not in your best interest as an employer, but I can see why you might think it is. And I can see why it might give you some cost savings, but let's not kid ourselves. It's not about improving the quality of the work that's being done. Let's not kid ourselves. With few exceptions. With few exceptions. There are a few exceptions.
I will agree that,
But so let's agree that it is that. But by the same token, as the employer and as somebody who signed contract, they have the right to say that. They can
change it, they can augment it, they can reverse it, they can do whatever they want with it whenever they want.
AT&T employees, if you're unhappy with this, see ya.
Right.
That's how,
and that's what they're going to say.
Down to.
There's approximately 9,000 people that are affected by this particular policy change. All right. And some of them may have to relocate. And AT&T isn't going to pay for that relocation. All right.
And that would be a different issue for people, depending on how their contracts were written about location and relocation.
Well, even still, AT&T is choosing to revise that, and they have. And what they're saying is,
I got you.
What they're saying is, you either get your butt into the closest AT&T office, all right, to where you currently reside, or you're out. And that may be, great. You're in the middle of, Wyoming. You've got, a good internet connection, and there's no AT&T office in the state of Wyoming, let's say. All right. Or place where you can go to work. All right, because you aren't going to go work in
Yeah.
you aren't going to do corporate work in a retail
Right.
store, right?
Right. Absolutely
So
true.
so what are you going to do now, right? Well, you've either got to relocate to
True.
pick the office that they're telling you need to be at, or you lose your job.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
just
And
this is why a lot
it,
of folks are saying this is not a return to office mandate. This is a downsizing.
yeah. And I would
It
say
is. I
I'm
agree.
not sure that I think this is the best thing for these employers to do, but you know what?
Yeah.
They're within their rights to do it.
It's
Well,
the
And I think,
railroad.
you know,
I want to say this. Before the pandemic, before the COVID pandemic, everybody got up every day, right?
they did.
You did the 3 S's, you got
They
in the
did.
car and you went to work. All right?
Yep.
And then you came home. And nobody ever questioned it. Nobody
No.
ever questioned it. Pandemic rolls around and we knew it wasn't going to be permanent, folks. You knew it wasn't going to be permanent.
Yep.
All right.
But
You
we
did.
got used to it and we liked
You
it.
got used to it. And now you're stamping your little foot. And I don't mean to make light of what's going on because the quality of your life may have improved.
And I understand it's important to individuals. I mean, it is. I get it.
So do I. It's a heck of a
Yeah,
lot
right.
easier for me to roll downstairs
Yep.
in my fuzzy pink bunny slippers and my PJs, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to getting dressed in, business casual and going into the office.
Yeah.
It's a heck of a lot easier. I love it.
Yeah. I will say, many of us are in a mixed, I'm going to call it a mixed environment. Mine's a little easier in that sense. We're
Hybrid.
only asked to come in once or possibly twice a month.
Right.
And the rest of and that's enough. I mean, it really does become a very collaborative session when you walk in. So I
Mhm.
think there is value to be had in it. Do I think it's necessary? No, I don't think it's necessary. But I do think there's value to be had, and I get companies
Well,
using that as their excuse.
interestingly enough, the company that I've been working for basically just reversed their RTO policy, right?
Ah,
We were totally hybrid. All right. In Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and you're at home Monday, Friday. All right. Now
Okay.
they said, look, everybody is an adult. If what you're doing today requires you to be in the office, you get your butt in the office. If you need to be there for a meeting or a project or for whatever it is, and you have to use the facilities at the office to do so, you better get there. You're an adult, get it to the office if you need to. If not, work wherever. All right? Work wherever. Everybody's an adult, which I thought was really interesting because they were doing all of the, looking at badge swipes, making certain that everybody was there at least 2 days out of the 3 that they mandated, right? And making certain that everybody did what they were supposed to do, got all their work done. All right. Now, all of a sudden, they've killed those reports. They've killed that policy. They've killed the requirements.
interesting.
And everybody's doing whatever it is that they're doing. But when you need to get to the office, you better be there because then your absence will definitely be noted. And it will, and the fickle finger of fate will point at you directly. That laser beam will burn you.
And we're talking about AT&T this week, but let's keep in mind that as of a couple days ago, Amazon just went back.
Right.
They just went back literally in the last couple of days. So I know that in Seattle, they were very worried about massive traffic problems with all these people coming back into downtown, and that they weren't ready for. They were curious how that was going to work out. But
well,
it's always interesting.
The road sizes didn't shrink.
No, but
All right.
I don't know how many people were going down before versus how many people are going down now. I don't know what that looks like, but yeah,
it would be whatever they had in 2018, 2019.
Yeah, you'd think
All right.
so. But it was all interesting. The point is, it was all kind of very interesting.
It was. Now, the other thing, another interesting event happened recently, and Larry, I want you to go over this if you can with us and help us all to understand. Net neutrality has come back and as a possibility here and basically net neutrality is internet traffic, and there's no preferential treatment given to any piece of or type of traffic over another. Traffic is traffic, and it's all the same, right?
You know something? Since this first started years ago, I mean, this is one topic that has spun me up more than probably anything I ever have read about or been involved in. And now it's just getting more and more silly. The net neutrality rules, which briefly came about or came back from the dead sometime during the Biden administration, have been struck down by the Sixth Court of Appeals. Kiddies, follow me just a minute here. So the judges said, we acknowledge that the workings of the internet are complicated and dynamic, and that the FCC, I'm quoting here, has significant expertise in overseeing this, quote, technical and complex area. And then the judges went on to wax philosophical about all of this BS. And pardon me, your lordships of legal hogwash, aka circuit court judges, much like politicians, you have absolutely no business engaging in technical discussions
Well, they
because you
are
are not
politicians.
good at it, damn it.
They
You're a
are
judge, you're
politicians.
not a geek. And it just trips my
Mhm.
trigger every time I read this crap. Chris,
This
what's
is-
your
this-
thought?
But this is the problem that we've been talking about when it comes to AI regulation or any kind of technology based regulations or legislation or policies that come out of any government agency.
And I was going to say, I think it's
Politics
important
and
to point out.
legalities have no
I was
place
going to
in
say
this.
we have talked about this and we've come to the conclusion amongst ourselves many times now. It has nothing to do with the particular party in power.
Nope.
No matter
No.
just always they
Yep.
make these decisions not for reasons that make any sense.
They
to
make
us.
these decisions
But
based
there's a reason
on
they
the
made them
capitalist
like that,
principle
Chris.
that it funds. Whose wallet is going to get fatter?
That's what it
Right.
comes down to.
That's what
really
it comes
does.
down to. That's where it's going to. What they're basically saying now is that because they've reversed the reverse
Chevron
decision.
They reverse the reversal.
Yes.
Mhm.
All right. So now we're back to the fact that content providers can now pay for priority placement of speed and of content on given networks. All right.
Yep.
That your regular old I want to play this TikTok reel isn't going to be given the same level of priority in terms of delivery of the content to you or anybody else that's viewing it. It's whoever has paid the most to get it out there. Now, while I understand and agree that we are a capitalist society, I mean, there comes a time and place for everything. And
This will eventually affect your bandwidth too.
It will
your
eventually
speed.
They're saying, yeah.
it will eventually affect the gigabit speed that you think you have or whatever speed that you've paid speed level that you've paid for. It's going to fall. It's going to drop. It's going to get slower.
Yep.
Why? Because the content that you are requesting isn't quote unquote as important.
Yep.
All right, to your ISP as somebody else who's paid some level
more, period.
of premium to have their content streamed to users over whatever it was that you were looking at.
So read that, folks, as the ads will have no trouble coming to you,
right.
but
No.
the
It's
actual content you
yes.
wanted might.
Yes. You're not going to get
Very
the
well
article, you're
said.
not going to get the video, but you will get the ads.
Oh yeah.
You will definitely get the ads.
All right. And and they're going to come through crystal clear. But everything else is going to be slow and choppy. Except the ads.
That's what happens with this.
Yeah.
And
That effectively is what's going on. And it really just kind of burns my britches.
I just want to see them stay out of it. Just get out of it. And
You know-
apply. And I understand the general idea was that the court went on to kind of say that the rules of the Telecommunications Act, which is what they're trying to leverage to enforce net neutrality, because telecommunications have to be done on a level playing field. You cannot give priority, all that kind of thing.
Well, they were trying to regulate them as a common carrier, right?
And they're trying to treat them like common carrier. And the problem is what they've come back and said is, well, it's data that's different. You can't. That's basically what they said.
Yeah, what they don't get and what they don't understand is everything that flows over the
Everything's
internet
data,
is what,
including the
Chris?
voice, kids,
Is
including the
what?
voice traffic.
Is
It's all
what?
data now. It's
All
all data.
data.
It's all
Voice
data now.
over IP,
It's
voice
all
over
data.
LTE. It's all data. It is no longer analog communications.
Yeah.
All right. It's not what Alexander Graham Bell screamed at Mr. Watson.
No.
That technology is now gone. It's been
And by the way,
replaced.
the carriers are pulling those end nodes out right and left. They're
They
no
are.
longer running copper to people's places anymore. It's all
No.
digital now.
All
They're not-
digital. It's all fiber. It's all even if it's coming
data.
over coax cable, it's still data. It's still data
Well,
that's riding that
it's funny
copper.
because it used to be, people forget this, at the beginning of cable TV, it was
Mm.
actually a signal broadcast over the cable TV that carried the channels. It was not
Mhm.
digital data when it started. It was actually just a signal that was carried over.
It was an analog
Well,
signal.
it was
Yeah.
digital, but it was still, the point is, what happens today is it's not. It's internet traffic streamed to you, whether you realize
Yes.
that or not. It's now streamed to you. The technology
All
changed.
broadcasting.
It's all different now.
ABC, NBC, CBS. It's all streamed.
Yep,
Even if
everything's
it's
streamed
quote
now.
unquote live, it's streamed.
Yeah, people
It's
don't realize
not
that it's changed.
broadcast anymore.
So we have to stop acting like, you know, we have to treat this data as LSM. I don't understand the thinking. Well, I do understand the thinking, but again, it's very short-sighted. It's very
Well, it's
whose money,
all about,
who gets the
again,
money
who's
for
going to
this?
pay me the most? Who's going to pay me? Who's going to pay me? Who's going to pay
Yeah.
me the most? Come on. Who wants to be first?
You know.
All right.
Yeah,
Give
I
me your
control
money.
the data pipe, so you just
Send your
pony
shekels
up.
over.
But
right.
the good news is, and Joel, we were talking about this a while ago. Joel, you'll get all sorts of new, better, wonderful bundles from your carrier now.
Yeah. Yeah.
All new
Please.
bundles now.
Please.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at least Rocket Money will do well.
I can't
So
wait.
at least Rocket Money will do well, allowing you to cancel those extra subscriptions that you've signed up for.
Yes,
Right.
there you go. That you didn't know you were signing up for.
Well, yeah. And that's part of the problem, right? Everything is streamed. Nothing is, even when you go to the movie theater, think about that.
Yeah.
It's not
True.
the digital movies. It's not the
There's
70
no
millimeter
film projector anymore, and they're
No, but
all
it-
streamed over
but
the internet.
the interesting thing is, it's not streamed live, but it is downloaded using a stream and stored locally and then rebroadcast.
and normally
But that's how they receive the movie now.
and
They don't
normally
send
it's
it
a
anymore.
Windows-based movie. It's a Windows-based movie format.
It is. It's strange
All
but
right.
true.
Strange but true. All the movie theaters are either streaming or playing a downloaded version of the movie.
So this net neutrality thing, we need to.
But
we
they're
need
not
to get
doing
back
it
to
live
but
because it would get screwed up. They are storing
yeah,
it briefly.
no, it's stored
Actually-
locally.
It's in a
Actually-
holding tank.
Actually, that's not entirely true. There are some events, Fathom events.
That's true. Those are streamed,
Fathom
those
events
broadcast, but-
are streamed live.
But normal movies are sent a few days ahead of time. They're digitally sent
Mhm.
to
Yes.
the and they
I
deliberately
mean, they're
control when those are
protecting
sent.
themselves there.
Yeah, and
That's-
they're controlled, so they're only sent just before they need to be broadcast. Because if you send them too early, people leak the
Yes,
movie,
they do.
right?
Yes,
So
they do.
they send it
Yeah.
digitally. It's stored on a server in the theater and
Well,
streamed to the
which is one
projector,
of the reasons why DRM is still around. But that's
which is why DRM is still around, kids.
that's a
But
different
again,
story
this net
entirely.
neutrality thing, it's going to make it worse, kids, not better. Getting
No,
rid of those rules is a bad idea.
right. And even though most everybody, and I don't want to get into politics. All right, I
Yeah,
don't
it's
want to
not
get into
about
politics.
politics.
But even though this is really benefits those who are more red than blue. All right.
It does. It does.
All right. It's bad for those that are more red than blue.
It really is.
At
It
the,
really
at
is.
the end of the day.
It really is. It's funny how and this is true about a lot of things, politics
Yeah.
now, but that we often do things that are not in our best interest, but we don't really realize that it's not in our best interest.
Right.
And this is one of those kinds of things. This is
Right.
not in our best interest as consumers,
No.
guys.
No,
It's just not.
it's not. And it's a bad idea.
So here we go. Hopefully we'll find a way to get those rules or some semblance of them back in place, because we really need to treat the internet traffic without any differentiation. We need to.
ISPs need to be treated as common carriers.
They do.
All traffic is equal.
I agree.
Period.
I agree.
split the bandwidth.
That's what we
equally.
need to do.
All
Okay.
right.
Well,
So moving on,
Anyway.
and Joel, this
Oh,
is
gosh,
your one story in
Ah.
your basic segment.
oh my goodness.
Well,
This is a story.
ZDNet is saying that Elementary OS 8 version 8 is the best Linux distro of 2024.
Yeah.
Go, Joel.
Well, that summed it up for me.
So let's lead off. What is Elementary OS? Elementary OS is yet another Ubuntu spin. The only thing really separating it, making it different than Ubuntu, Kubuntu, Linux Mint, so on and so forth, is that it has its own desktop interface that was developed by the Elementary OS team. So let me see.
And it has a bit of a Mac OS look, right?
It does have a bit of a Mac OS look and feel.
It's kind of like it's a little like Budgie, but not really. It's
the interface that they have on it is, I'm trying to see what they're calling it. They call it, everyone has their own little name for their desktop
for their
environment.
things.
Sure.
Pantheon desktop environment is what they call it. And it's built on top of GNOME, and it's very GNOME-like. You literally can put a theme on GNOME and make it look exactly like this.
Okay.
But to me, I'm like, this seems to be more based on looks and ease of use that Elementary OS may have over actual technical functionality. What has Elementary OS done that's any different than any of the other Linux systems done? And nothing really. It supports all the things Ubuntu supports, including apt, depackaged backend, and the Flatpaks. For software installation, has
updates the same way that Mac OS would. In other words, there are updates for certain components that come down.
More like Ubuntu, but yeah.
But the point is, it's self-updating, just like every other modern desktop
distro.
OS is, right? It's not like a Linux. It's not like Red Hat or any other kind of Linux from, say, 10, 20 years ago, when you had to go ahead and type in the magic words to go and reach out to the repository to pull the stuff down.
And honestly, that's been how Linux has been for at least 15 years or longer.
Right.
That's the thing. If I were to pick a great Linux distro of 2024, I'm going to say with Manjaro. Manjaro is the one I've been sticking with the longest. It's based on Arch Linux, and it's got a different packaging system than any of the common ones. It's so easy to, like, if there's something that's not a part of the normal Manjaro repositories, it supports the Arch user repository, otherwise known as AUR, and it will literally compile the software for you when you do the installation work. It supports Chrome browser, so, it does everything I needed to do. Garuda is another one that I would look at. But honestly, Elementary OS, as beautiful and nice as it looks, Linux distro of the year, I don't think so. It's just my opinion. There's so many others.
Linux is one of those things that, if you're going to be in Linux, you need to learn certain commands to do certain things. All right. You do need to, it does rely on terminal a bit more than Windows and Mac OS as well. All right.
Right.
However, from a user perspective, it's regardless of how it does what it does. All right, it's still a very good distro. All right, but a lot of that is going to depend on you and your preferences.
Yes.
Right.
Truth. Yes.
So there are a lot of different. There are a lot of different distributions that are out there. There are a lot of different distributions that are available. All right, you should use the one that works best for you. Now, how do you figure out what that is? Kids,
you talk to us.
Got to play with them.
Read the articles.
read the
Well,
articles, play with them.
play with them, and it's the one and only operating system. Well, not the only operating system, but it's a huge. You're not paying money. You don't have to pay money for it. You can go literally download the CD image, throw it on a thumb drive, boot off of it, and you don't even have to install it on your hard drive to give it a try before you make the choice to install it.
Mhm.
And
And I
there's
would
so
also
many
say
of them.
something you said, Chris, you have to know a lot more about terminal. I mean, granted, we all know that, but
Mhm.
I think a lot of the distros are trying to make it so the newbies can come in and never touch terminal and still play in Linux. I mean, we've got a lot of,
Ubuntu, you can do that. I
yeah.
mean, you can do
We have
that
a
with
lot of folks here who are sick and tired of, they just don't want to, they want to keep their old PC, their Windows 10 PC. They can't get it upgraded to Windows 11. And they're starting
Yep.
to ask us, hey, what can I do? So we're starting to tell them Linux and several are making the plunge. So,
hmm And the nice thing is too is if you don't like for example, Ubuntu uses GNOME as a default desktop. You can go to KDE very easily by basically installing Kubuntu on your Ubuntu install. It's just a one-line command. You install that, and then you can literally choose which desktop you use. If you like GNOME and you share a computer with like your wife or something, and she likes KDE, you can have both of them on there.
You
You can
can,
use the same computer. I
right?
mean,
I
and
mean,
that's
we've
the
come a
power of
long way
Linux.
with Linux. We really
Oh,
have.
we have.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
eLive. All right.
Yeah,
Um,
Eli, the old elementary or Enlightenment desktop. Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
eLive, and it's kind of it's got those that remember back way back in the day, Light Step, right? That had those
Yeah.
right click kind of menus and whatnot. I used to use it a lot when we were writing for WUGNET,
Yep.
because it was very easy to install on Windows 95 and Windows 98. All you had to do was really basically change one line in the WinINI file, and you had a completely different um, uh, 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 desktop. You had a completely different theme. You had a completely different sort of command processor, and it was really kind of nice. Um, this reminds me of that. And when I want to play with a distro, eLive is the one that I like.
hmm
So it's exactly
Yep.
the same as Mac OS, except that it's completely different.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
So I mean, and it's all about and that's the important thing too. It's all about what your preferences are, and if you don't like the way Mac OS, I actually, Mac OS has grown on me. In fact, just got Sequoia on my work laptop. I really dig it. Um,
It's good. It's a good OS. It really is.
yeah, and but it
Yeah.
wouldn't break my heart if corporate would say, "Hey, do you want to try Linux on your desktop?" I'd be like, "Absolutely." I
The one
did that
thing,
for when I worked at the college. I used Linux for 2 straight years as my
the
Mhm.
one thing I
primary
do like
desktop
about
and laptop operating system. Yeah.
one of the things I do like about Mac OS versus Windows is you can pop up a terminal window and do Linuxy things without even thinking
Oh
about it.
yeah. Yep.
Whereas Windows,
Absolutely.
that's a little bit more to do to make that happen, but it's so easy under Mac
Yeah.
because it's a
One.
Unix distribution under the hood.
Yep. Well, Linux, you can do this, but you can also do this on Mac OS. And
Yep.
it's a trick I use quite frequently, managing load balance servers. Is I have some of my clients' host names for some of their external interfaces in the host file, and I can switch whichever IP I want to make sure that each server in the load balance
Ah,
works as expected. All right. A lot of the ways that's the only way to do it. Because if you're sitting in front of the application load balancer on the AWS side of things, you can't, you literally can't tell which server you're on because
true.
ideally the config should be the same. So, but that's the only way I found they able to test it. You can't do it on Windows. It's just a little bit more difficult because they move, Windows doesn't follow the same file structure.
It
The
doesn't.
No.
Linux and Mac OS has /etc is where the host file lives, and you can go in there very easily. With Windows, I gotta navigate and hunt for it. I know where it's at. I do that all the time too. But still, it's much easier for me to do that in Linux or Mac OS. So
And don't even get me started on how Windows does file systems rights and permissions as opposed to
Oh,
traditional
well, yeah.
Linux or
Yeah.
some of these other utilities. It's like it's just insane.
You're
So,
an administrator, but you can't get to that directory,
Yeah, there you go.
which is
All sorts of
constantly a
crazy
constant
things.
thing I see on Windows.
Constantly crazy.
Well, that's
So-
annoying as all
So
get
yeah,
out,
so
but-
I would agree. You know, I mean, it's a nice looking distro. It's very clean. This is very polished. But
Mhm.
I was kind of surprised to see them claim this as the best distro out there. I was like, really?
Yeah, there's better ones out there, in my opinion. You know,
Yeah, it was very, very, very surprising to see that. It's like, oh, huh.
Yep.
Why would you say that? Oh, okay, whatever. You know,
You know, it's a thing.
it's a thing.
It's a thing. But anyway, speaking of a thing, we're
It's
going to
a
go
thing.
ahead and move to our Windows segment. But before that, we will be right back after this brief message. Hi. This is Christopher Spera from iTechGear.org. I wanted to talk with you today about becoming a contributing donor to the site. iTechGear.org has been around for almost 15 years. In fact, our anniversary is just around the corner on January 10th, 2025. 15 years. Where has the time gone? I mean, I've never really asked for any kind of donations for the site. It's always been about me providing value to you, a site visitor or podcast listener. The iTechGear Weekly is now in its 4th year of production, and Chris G, Joel, and Dr. Mr. Larry McJunkin and I are having a really great time providing you with some of the best free tech talk available from time-tested original internet writers, testers, site founders, and professional writers and editors on the internet. I truly believe that our crew has some of the best and most qualified pundits and commentators on the internet today. And we're not hobbled by any kind of sponsorship or affiliated relationship or other time-bought posts. It all comes from the heart. Unfortunately, times are kind of tough. And since the COVID-19 pandemic of 2020 to 2023, yes, almost 3 full years, times have become increasingly difficult for small independent sites like iTechGear.org to stay afloat. You know, I normally do this with a portion of the salary I make from the day job, but with the IT market so tight right now, it's really difficult sometimes for many to make normal household ends meet, let alone fund a site like iTechGear that might decide to bring in a buck or two. You know, it ain't easy. If you find any of our content on iTechGear or from ITGW to be of any value at all, I would seriously appreciate you donating as little as just $1 to the cause. While we do have a Patreon site, it's hard to keep one website up, let alone 2. And since it's really only me doing the work, our Patreon site hasn't really helped us at all. If you can make a donation to the site or to the show of any amount, I'd be forever grateful. All donations will go to site maintenance, hosting, podcast hosting, and everything iTechGear related. Donations can be made to my PayPal account at chris@itechgear.org. Make a donation. We'll thank you immediately on the next ITGW episode and voice our gratitude. I want to thank you. We appreciate your consideration, time, and attention. Now let's get back to the latest iTechGear Weekly episode. And welcome back to the iTechGear Weekly, episode number 116. Bless your heart. And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yes. And as I said, we're going to go ahead and get into our Windows segment. And, you know, it's interesting. It's interesting that Joel's leading the conversations on all of our Windows segments. So I always
Nice,
love
Joel.
it when
Good luck to that.
Yeah, I always love it when that happens. So the first one, though, Joel, Did you hear that there's a new Windows 11 security bug that could block future updates?
Yeah, only if you install via the CD, apparently.
Well,
Oh,
Or Flash.
really?
Yes,
Okay.
it's install if you install Windows 11 2024 version, it'll be 24H2 via CD or flash drive. It may cause it to reject any future updates. Microsoft is working on a fix. So apparently this is a bug. So,
well, of
you know,
course they're working
This
on
is
a
just
fix.
another 11 24H2 problem,
Yeah.
really.
Boy.
yeah.
There's been so many problems with this
Well,
release.
and that fact that I literally had to go force 24H2 in order for me to get 24H2.
Yeah,
It didn't automatically update on mine. So,
interesting.
Well, so apparently the
yeah.
the fix for this is in the December 2024 monthly update, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
all right, and it will go ahead and allow you to get past this. However, the Microsoft will go ahead and they will always tell you, the best way to do if you haven't run Windows Update in the while, the best way to go ahead and do this is really just to run Windows Update. You know, just
It can take a long time, though. Warning,
it can take a
warning to
long
everybody.
time. It can take a while, all right, to get everything down, but Windows Update is always going to have the latest, greatest updates and drivers, and
Hmm.
they're going to have the latest version of the things, right? Um,
Right.
yes, getting everything on a DVD or on a thumb drive and upgrading from there may be a little bit faster because you skip the whole downloading thing, right? Um, however, it opens you up to stupidity like this. I mean, come on, Microsoft. All right. I mean, come on. All right. Why? Not everybody has unlimited bandwidth on their internet downloads. Not everybody has the ability to bring it all down, at gigabit plus speeds. There's a lot of folks that, if they hit 300 megabits, they're cooking with gas, and then they may have a 5 to or so gigabyte cap on their um, on their bandwidth before they either slow down dramatically, like maybe down to 150 megabyte or megabits from 300, or they get hit with a additional charge. What the hell?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, really, I don't understand why this happens.
Well,
Um,
again, look at the sequence of issues, errors, problems with all the flavors of Windows 11 since it's come out. Look at how many times we've talked about. Up, this broke. Up, this broke. Up, this broke. Yeah.
Don't get me started on Azure and how funky it is dealing with it on a daily basis in my day job. You know, it's
Well,
you know
there's a
like
reason that was one of the teams that suffered
oh,
layoffs last year.
yeah,
mhm.
it's awful. Yep. Yeah, but I mean, I've never been. I mean, I hazard to say it's almost gone back to being as bad as it was in Windows 98 in a lot of
Wow.
cases.
Right.
So,
In
So
some ways, I would agree.
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So apparently, all right. Over the last 3 or so months, so this last quarter was a really, for Microsoft as far as Windows Update was concerned. The October
Mm.
update fixed some bugs, but created a whole bunch of other ones. All right. The November update resolved most of those created or regression related issues. All right, but not all of them. All right. The December update fixed one specific glitch with certain USB connected scanners and other devices. And now further bugs seem to be popping up, turning the update into an ongoing mess that Microsoft still has to clean up. Um, until the 2024 version of Windows 11 becomes more solid and stable, ZDNet is advising people to steer clear,
Hmm.
which is not a bad idea. Um, however, we always tell folks that if you really want things to um, to stay bug free if you really want to, make certain that you've got the best security updates, et cetera. Always update as soon as possible. Unfortunately, this may not always be the best advice when it comes to Microsoft Windows. So,
Right.
so a lot of folks in our neck of the woods, or at least in our experience neck of the woods, we always jump on these things pretty early, or at least as early as possible, just so we can go ahead and advise everybody else. But it's getting really, I mean, depending on how things go, it could be not so great. So,
Yep. And when Windows fails you, or if you're a PC, like our next article says, is unsupported by Windows 11 and you can't update it from Windows 10, ESET recommends installing Linux.
Yeah, that's where I was going earlier.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
and honestly, um,
The fascinating thing. 'Cause
it
we've been
is
saying
it
that for a
is
long time now.
probably the best advice that we could give anybody. You got an older PC, or if you've got a Windows 10 PC that won't upgrade to Windows 11, and
You need to phrase that a little differently, Chris. You need to say it's the best advice that we've given you before.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You know, I mean, it's
On
not just
numerous
coming from
occasions, yeah.
ESET. I've been talking about that for years. I mean, I have, since I moved to my company, which will be, well, I've been there over 10 years now.
Right.
But technically, my official 10-year date is in June. But since I've been done that, I have every PC that I bought since then still in this office, and it has Linux on every one of them. The only ones that have Windows on it are my Surface Pro 6, because I'm not going to put Linux on that just yet.
Understood.
It's my backup Windows machine. And this one that I'm using for tonight. My Lenovo YogaBook 7 has Linux on it and works really well. The only thing that doesn't work on it is the battery. But I can order another one for $40 off of Amazon, and I can keep it going, and it works just fine. I've streamed high def videos to it, no problems. And it's nearing 10 years old. So
There you go.
So I mean, Linux, and I'll also say this too. If you have a new PC and you don't, and Windows is giving you fits, try Linux on it. Linux works very, very well on powerful hardware as well. It's not just for low resource machines. So
It's not just for low resource machines or computer geeks, kids.
no,
no,
it really isn't anymore. I mean,
no, it's not,
you-
and it's
if
a
you
really,
use a Chromebook, by the way, you use Linux.
right.
So I mean, it's there.
Well, get on the
Absolutely.
board. You can almost say, because if you used Android, you've used Linux, but
Yeah, that's
you know,
true.
you could go down that
Linux
path
kernel's
too.
there.
If you've used Android, if you've used Mac OS, if you've used
Well, Mac OS is a different kernel. It's not a
it's
it's
Linux
a different,
kernel.
but it's
Yeah,
still
it's
a form
Unix.
of Unix.
It's
which
Unix.
is
Correct.
which is the
Well, it's the
proceeding
core. It's
to-
the root of it all. Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
and that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
However, um,
The only problem is if you have to run something like Adobe Creative Cloud, it's not on Linux yet, so probably won't ever.
Yeah,
go
there's a
on
few
Linux.
exceptions, compatibility kind of exceptions you'll
Yep.
have to deal with. But
Yeah.
if you're doing
And the other
basic stuff,
thing-
guys, you're there.
Yeah,
Basic
if you're
stuff.
doing basic stuff, yes. Like for example, in my case, I'd probably never fully switch over to Linux only, mostly because when I want to go buy a new camera, I don't want to have to go see. Well, does Darktable support that? Darktable is a Lightroom
like a
like
workalike.
application.
Joe, how do you
Yes.
like Darktable?
I don't use it, so
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
yeah,
I
because
didn't
you
know
use Lightroom.
yeah, I
So,
use
yeah,
Lightroom.
yeah.
So I mean, that's the thing. I will every once in a while. We'll try it just for the heck of it.
It's getting a lot of good press right now, and I haven't
The
tried
thing
it
is,
yet.
and my biggest problem with both the video editing and the photo editing apps on Linux is it is like Adobe was 20 years ago, in my opinion. There's many more automations. You got AI things built into the Adobe Creative Cloud suite now. Like for AI background replacement, it's so easy to do that kind of a simple Photoshop that used to take hours in a few minutes. So I mean, the Linux editing software, I haven't found one yet that does similar things.
Yeah,
So
cool.
and it's so easy for me. Like if I want to apply the same, like that's the other thing too is Adobe has pretty much every camera manufacturer and a lot of the lens specs for most SLR cameras and mirrorless cameras. Like I shoot with the Sony A6400, and I can apply correction effects because of the lenses that I own with a couple button presses. You know, that's not going to happen on an open source application. So as much as I wish it would, Sony, Nikon, and Canon ain't gonna release those specs so that those things can be written into the open source software because the software is open source and the code's out there, and that's how those companies make their bread and butter. So, but Linux, like if you're very basic, like if you have an old machine that you want to still use, throw Linux on it, you're gonna have a good time. In my opinion, you can do everything you're doing today on Windows. So, I think that's it, right?
I think so. I think so. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move us to our tip of the week segment. A lot of folks, my wife included, use iPhones as their daily driver, right? And I know that my wife often has issues or problems with her phone. Sometimes it'll do some weird things. Sometimes it won't do what she wants it to do, even when it's done that thing that she's looking to do before. All right. In other words, it's not behaving the way that it's supposed to. Sometimes you have to go ahead and restart or reset your iPhone. All right. The best way that I know to reboot the device or restart it is to go ahead for iPhone 8 and newer. Quickly press and let go of the volume button. Quickly press and let go of volume up. Then quickly press and let go of volume down. And then press and hold the side button or the power button or the same button that you use to activate Siri. And then you keep on holding that. Do not let go. You're going to see the screen will change and it'll show, or if you want to turn off the device, swipe this thing to the right. If you want to just reboot it and reset it, keep holding it. Don't swipe anything on the screen. Just keep holding that side button in until you see the Apple logo. That screen will disappear. It'll go black for a few seconds. Keep on holding that in and then let go after that Apple logo appears. And what you've basically done is you've cleared out all of the cache, all of the things that may be preventing your iPhone from doing what you want it to do, and it'll start fresh. All right. It not only will it reboot, but it'll wipe out some temporary data and such, and that is really kind of cool. So for your iPhone 8 and newer, all right, this is from iOS 16 and later, all right, as well as iPhone SE second edition, second and third generations. Follow those instructions. If you have an iPhone 7 or earlier, all right, press and hold the volume down button and that sleep wake button, the power button, at the same time. And then keep holding those until you see the Apple logo. And then go ahead and let go. and it'll do the same thing with the same results. It'll reset, it'll restart, clear out some junky temporary data, get everything out of the way, and then allow you probably to resume normal operations. If you've got something older than that, something with a home button on it, all right, iPhone 6 and earlier, all right, or the first generation iPhone SE, what you need to do is the power button on top and the home button, you press and hold those at the same time until the Apple logo appears, and then let go. And again, the same thing will happen. All right. Gets rid of the old crummy data, and then we'll go ahead and reboot, restart, and should get you back running fresh. All right. Now, there may be sometimes that you actually do need to turn it off if you've upgraded your device to a new version and you're having trouble connecting to your service. Make sure you turn the go through that same sort of process. When you see the slides that says power off, slide it over to the right, let go of the button, slide it over to the right, it'll turn off. All right. In some cases, you may actually need to turn the device off in order for it to re-register on the tower that you've been connecting to, or the closest tower that you've been connecting to, and that will allow a new set of settings, carrier settings to come down, as well as re-registering on the tower and clear up any communication glitches that you may have. All right. And again, it's going to be the same kind of thing. You're going to get that screen, that power off screen, before you actually see the Apple logo with all of those restarts processes. All right. Apple changed the reason or the design of the iPhones over the last few years, and because they've had to move buttons and whatnot, and they got rid of the home button, etc. And so because of those hardware-based changes, this is why the restart process or the reset process changes. All right.
Mhm.
So if you're having problems with your iPhone, the best thing that I can tell you to do, despite the fact that you shouldn't have to, as my wife keeps on reminding me, I shouldn't have to do that. Well, welcome to IT. This is the way things work. All right. When things don't necessarily go the way that you want them to, the best thing to do here is to go ahead and
Oh boy.
The way I
reset,
explain it to
restart.
people is you could troubleshoot and go looking for the issue, and
Yep.
you could do that. And some places you work for will insist on a root cause analysis for everything. But here's the reality: you're going to
Yep.
waste a lot of time and money trying to find something when a simple restart will get you clear, get you solved, and up and running faster
Yep.
and cheaper. Not worth the money more than
Yep.
not.
So 9
Absolutely.
times out of 10, just, bite the button or bite the bullet.
Bite the
I'm
button.
playing with my Linux machine. So, but the point is this. All right. If you're really wanting to make certain that things are running right, and you want or have to do this, this is the best way to make sure
Yeah,
that you get what you need. All right.
I would
So
agree.
I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. All right.
Yep.
Anyway, so that's our tip of the week. And I'm going to go ahead now and move us to our pick of the week segment. But again, before we get there, I want to take a moment and let our listeners know that our show picks are typically hardware, software, and other items of interest that we have individually purchased and that we actually use and that we like enough that we want to recommend them to you, our growing listener base. These are not paid advertisements. Again, these are not items that we have any kind of an affiliated marketing relationship with. Let's face it, we have neither of those. All right. These are really just things that we get and we come across now and again. If we did have any of those, well, we the editorial policy at iTechGear.org states that we have to tell you about that up front before we give you the pick. So again, these are just things that we sincerely believe in, and we want to bring them to you at the end of each show. Why?
Because
We like
you.
you.
Yeah, we ended up
Close.
we're working on it. It's
He is.
it's a thing in progress. All right, Chris, this was you've got a few picks coming up over the next few shows. Not all back to back, by the way, but you over the next few shows because we were going
Maybe
to
we'll
do
talk about it.
yeah,
Yeah,
we were going and you're going to give me the damn picks.
they're a different nature, but we'll talk about it. Yeah,
Shut up. Anyway,
you just keep thinking whatever you want to think.
yeah,
That
you
makes
go
happy.
ahead, Chris.
Bless your heart,
And Happy New Year.
and a happy New Year.
Um, we were going to do a picks show, but we ran into some technical difficulties over the Christmas holiday, and we
Oh, my
didn't get to that
goodness.
show, unfortunately. But these are some of these are going to be from your level of picks. What do you got?
Well, it's a little bit unusual
Okay,
for both me and for the show. A little bit unusual.
okay.
Um, for those folks, we're not on video, so folks can't really tell. But I tend to be of this group of old guys. I have really,
No,
really long hair. It gets very when you have long hair, you get parts that are dry, parts that are oily, and it gets to be very if you want to keep it, you got to keep it up, so to speak. You got to
Hmm.
take care of it. And it's a challenge some days. Well, I ran into this product. I don't even remember where I saw it first, but I kept running into it in different conversations and articles and reviews and whatnot. And you always have to be careful online with reviews because they can be staged, so to speak. But I decided to give this product a try. The product in question is called Virtue Healing Oil. Virtue is a company. Certain celebrities are endorsing it at this point in time. I would say forget that nonsense. The reality is I decided to try the product. I have the mid range of my hair gets extremely dry and it gets knotted, and then it breaks and I'm pulling out a lot and all that kind of fun stuff. I decided to try this, and this healing oil, it kind of works a lot like like oils that try to help you with split ends and things like that
Like
that people get.
VO5 oil. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically an alpha keratin oil. Um,
okay.
and it basically I use it in mid-range. You only have to use a few drops. You rub it into your hands, rub your hands together, and then rub it in through your hair and rub it down even toward where the scalp is. But the point is the hair there, it gets very nice, soft, shiny, and it just seems to revitalize. And that works for me. Your mileage may vary, of course, with any of these kinds of products, but for me, it's really done an amazing job. So I thought, well, I'm going to call this one out, because it really is doing a really good number for me. You can get it at the Virtue Labs website,
Mhm.
virtuelabs.com. And this particular, I have the larger size bottle. It's $45 for the larger size. There's a smaller travel size that's $26. Um, and I've seen it go on sale on Amazon at different times. Right now, I can't find it on Amazon. Other virtual products are there, but this particular product seems to be out of stock on Amazon right now. But you can get it from the Virtue Labs website, and I got to say, it surprised me. I guess that's why I'm happy to talk about it.
Chris Spera, this stuff will not work for you and I, or you and me.
Well, you have to
It's
have hair for it to work,
yeah, it's
Larry.
I
just not your
know, I
product.
know,
I
I
I
know. That's
get
what
it.
I'm thinking. Well, at least you got some on your face.
I was gonna say, will it work on facial? But then I thought, well, it probably will work on just about any hair, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would
It
think
work,
so. I don't know. I'm not certainly
I
not
know.
an
I've
expert
got
on those
a
things.
number of colleagues and friends that have very very long beards or beards
Ah,
that come
gotcha.
down below,
Yeah, me
well
too.
below their chin, right?
Yeah, me too.
Right. And this would probably, and I know that uh, long facial hair it needs conditioning just as much as the hair that comes out of the top of
Absolutely. And
you
people don't
know.
understand when you have it long, whether it's your chin or whether it's your hair, your hair on your head, um, oil is not distributed evenly across
No,
that. You have
no,
to kind of help it along a little
you got
bit.
to bring it
And
down to
so
the
you
ends.
either end up making the whole thing look greasy or you make the whole thing dried out and you look like a scarecrow. So
Yeah.
you have to, especially this time of year, guys, especially this time of year with winter
Hmm.
and the dry interior environments, you got to help yourself sometimes. And this has done pretty good for me. I've been really, really surprised at how much it's helped. And it's really, for me, it's been reducing the breakage and things like that.
See, and this is one of the things that you're going to see when you click on the link that we provide in our show notes. You're going to see that and you have to take this with a grain of salt because it is
Mhm.
marketing, but they're
It's
saying that
marketing.
100% of their users say that, or their users that have given them feedback, positive feedback, said their hair was immediately shinier. 98% said that their hair was polished, nourished, silkier, and healthier after
Yep.
8 hours. All right, and 100% of them felt that the product did not leave hair greasy or weighed down after 1 week of use. So you could use this on a daily basis, and like you said, probably nothing more than like maybe a penny or a dime size drop on your palm, right? Rub it into your hands and then rub it on your, through your hair, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not bad.
Yeah, for me, again, it's worked well for me, and I was kind of surprised. That's why I'm bringing it up.
Right.
Uh,
And
but
so
but
the
again, your hair
full,
quality and texture is going to change whether or not this works well for you as well. There's a lot of factors here, but yeah,
sure.
maybe worth a look to you.
Well, so it comes in two sizes,
Yep,
right?
like I said.
1.7 ounces, which is the full size, or
Hmm.
a travel size, which is just more than half an ounce. All right. You can set up a subscription and it will lower the overall price
It does.
over time. But at least the deliver once price, if you just want to try it out, is $45.
And the smaller size is 26, as I've already mentioned. But
Yeah.
yes, but yeah, it really, again, it's a lot of money. But I'll tell you what, if you want nice hair, long hair, you try things, And for me, this
You
worked.
do. You do. And that worked, and that's awesome. They have 1,012 reviews. They are what, 4.4.5 stars.
Yeah, 4.5 stars. Yeah.
So
Uh,
on this, out of 1,000 reviews, so not too bad. Um, Virtue healing oil, right?
Virtual healing oil. Yeah. And Virtue makes a whole variety of products. I have to be honest, I haven't tried their other products for the most part. This is the one I tried because this is the one that kept presenting itself.
This is the one that
And
works
this is the
for
one
you
that
so
works
far.
for me. It's certainly,
Yeah.
and it keeps, again, it's out of stock on Amazon, which tells me somebody's buying it.
Sure.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
So there you go. And that's awesome. All right. Well, kids, that is the show. This has been the iTechGear Weekly, episode number 116. Bless your heart and Happy New Year. Recorded live Sunday, January 5th, 2025, live from iTechGear Central. As I said, I'm Christopher Spera, and for Mr. Chris Gavula, Brother Joe McLaughlin, and Dr. Mr. Larry McJunkin, I'm going to say, hey, we'll see you next time.